It is typically referred to as the hardest position to learn in the NFL other than quarterback. It's probably the only position on the field where your objective is to never have your name said during the live broadcast. Now, the typical NFL cornerback stands in at about 5'11" tall and usually runs around a 4.4 40. These guys are some of your fastest athletes on the field and are usually involved in a lot of tackles, leading to having some of the lowest career spans in the NFL. And despite being one of the hardest and most important positions, the average salary for elite cornerbacks doesn't add up when compared to other positions with similar importance, like wide receivers and even D linemen. So today, guys, I want to talk about one of my favorite positions in the NFL. I want to look into why the cornerback position is persecuted so heavily by the officiating and why for some reason everything seems to be stacked against this one position, but yet they thrive so much in the NFL. So if you're interested in that, my boy, consider subscribing and sticking around. Let's go with DeeTalk. We up. So I'm going to make my argument for why it sucks to be an NFL cornerback by breaking it down into two parts. The first we're going to talk about is the history and the context of the position. And then we're going to go into my 5 arguments for why it would suck to be an NFL cornerback in today's game. So the cornerback weren't always the super athletes that we see them today. In the early days of football, passing wasn't really a big deal. It was more about running the ball to score touchdowns. So there wasn't much of a need for teams to have players specialize in stopping and covering receivers. But as the passing game evolved over the years, especially in the 1940s, that's when the cornerback position was born out of its necessity. We needed guys specialized at a position that could limit an offense so much that the game becomes almost decided by these players. And then when we move on to the 1970s, you have guys like Mel Blount who took the position to an absolutely new level. He used his raw physicality to dominate receivers at the line of scrimmage. But for some reason, guys, this guy was too good at football. He was too good at stopping these receivers in his era. If you want to be a good cornerback or you really like the position, just Google Mel Blount. This guy literally changed everything about what it means to be a DB in the NFL today. So in the 1970s, the NFL made a rule change to counter Mel Blount. They made it impossible for cornerbacks to touch or interfere with receiver a certain distance off of the line of scrimmage. This heavily shifted the game in the favor of the offense. So now receivers weren't being disrupted very early on in their routes. They were at least given time to break. That made the passing game a whole lot easier thanks to this guy, man. Jesus, Mel Blount. So from that point on, cornerbacks have been asked to do one of the hardest things in all of sport. Their job is to literally cover some of the most impressive athletes the world have ever produced. And they are supposed to do all of this based purely on reaction and experience. They were supposed to guard these guys without knowing their routes, and they were doing it backwards. That is why today the position has evolved to be the second most difficult position in all of football. So let's get into my number 1 argument for why it sucks to be a cornerback. The first one will go as follows. You are set up to fail.
It's just impossible to play cornerback in this league.
Correct.
You're not allowed to touch anybody. Playing cornerback has got to be the toughest job on a football field.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Now, cornerbacks are the most penalized players in the NFL. Just last season, these guys had a total of 270 flags. This is mostly defensive pass interference, holding, and all of these rules that are really based on the officiating of the game. And then when you look at the guys they're guarding most of the time, these receivers are allowed to push off, even run over the cornerbacks, but they don't get anything thrown their way. It is just recently that we're seeing more and more offensive pass interference being called, but most of the time cornerbacks are the ones getting penalized for anything that seems remotely off with a route or with a passing play. So even though the receiver can do whatever it takes to catch the ball, they can put themselves in the best position by using the physicality. The cornerback is highly limited because of the way the league is set up, and this is all done for the betterment of offenses. This is all done to make the league more entertaining to watch. These guys have nothing to do but to follow the league. They're playing handicap in the hardest position on defense. Now for number 2, let's talk about the island.
For me, the cornerback is the most lonely, difficult position in football.
For sure.
Not even close.
Man, it's different on that island, bro.
Yeah,
That's why you get paid a lot of money, man. Because it's like
Man, listen, that's a brutal job.
The cornerback position is known as the loneliest position in football because if you're good at this position, if you're considered an elite lockdown cornerback, you're playing most of the game by yourself. You are on what is called an island. And no one else was known for this more so than Rivas.
Two words that put complete fear into every quarterback and wide receiver in the league: Rivas Island. Darrelle Rivas locked up your favorite wideout and made sure the best quarterbacks in the league didn't even look his way during his entire career.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
His team could rely on him taking an entire core component of an offense out of the game. This is so valuable for a team. The ability to take away a team's ex-receiver is so huge in terms of winning that game. These guys do so much for a team, and yet they aren't valued as highly as you would understand them or you would think them to be valued as by the NFL. And another aspect of the island part of this position is the fact that people don't see what these cornerbacks do. When you're a great cornerback, your stats usually don't show how good you are. It's really hard to gauge the value of a good cornerback because the quarterback can decide to just not throw the ball your way and you have no stats. You have no tangible measurement to really show your value. You are on that island, and that quarterback can literally isolate that entire part of the field to you. That could also mean that you're not a part of the game. Also, guys, we're about 1,560 subscribers right now, maybe more, and we're trying to hit 2,000 subs. So better go out there and help the channel, alright? And that now leads us on to number 3, which is every mistake you make is magnified. When a quarterback throws an interception, people shrug it up, okay? When a cornerback gets beaten though, everybody is going on Twitter to tweet about it. Every mistake you make could lead to 6 points, and millions of people could judge you for it. Even the best cornerback like Jalen Ramsey have moments where they get burned, and people would never forget about that. It's a very black and white position because if you're winning, people won't see it, people won't talk about it. But once you start to slack in your duties, people are seeing it. Everything is magnified. All your flaws are seen by the world. That's another huge negative and a huge part of playing this position that people have to understand and accept. And this leads perfectly into my next point, which is the mental strain of this position. There is no other position in the NFL that requires the level of mental fortitude like a cornerback. You have the wide receiver position, which can be mentally unstable a lot of times, but their game is highly dependent on their skill sets and the offense. The cornerback position is incredibly isolated. These guys have to play every down with their pride on the line. If you lose a rep, you have to mentally take yourself out of that hole and play like nothing happened. The cornerback position is the perfect example that negativity and hardship are things that you learn from and bounce off of, because these guys go through this multiple times a game. There's no other positions in the NFL, maybe the quarterback position, that really embodies this more than the cornerback. The cornerback have to do so much more when it comes to the mental side of the game, when it comes to criticism from the media, criticisms from fans, and when they're actually doing the best work, people don't see it. So all of that they have to take in, and they have to somehow package that into productivity for them to keep their jobs. Now guys, this is Editing D, okay? I just want to tell you guys, this video is very important to me because I do have someone that plays cornerback, and this position is very hard. I'm not someone as a receiver at all, but we were practicing the other day. I was trying to get him some reps at the cornerback position, and I actually kind of cooked him. Peep this clip right here, like I'm doing my job. I'm not a receiver. So y'all let me know out there if I did my thing and if I showed that the cornerback position is pretty difficult. Let's get back to the video. Now for number 5, we're going to talk about the physical toll. As much as the mental is important for the cornerback position, I think the physical side is also very underrated. These guys have to guard DK Metcalfs. These guys have to guard extreme athletes who are running sometimes 4.2 in the 40. These guys have to be so good, so quick in terms of changing direction to keep up with these athletes every year. And most of the time, they are running backwards. They're doing what the receiver is doing backwards. Now challenge yourself right there to do something that people who are literally one-of-one do going forward, and your job is to do it backwards. Your job is to do it backwards better than them, but get paid less than them and get criticized more than them. That is the plight of being a cornerback in the NFL. It is not perfect, one of the scariest positions also in my opinion, because every rep, every down, your entire career, the way people see you is out there. You have to prove every time you guard a person that you are worthy of being in the NFL. And the same can't be said about any of these other positions, though they reach that level in some extent. So to conclude, it doesn't suck to be the cornerback position or any position in the NFL. Once you're in the NFL, you basically made it in life. But when it comes to a specific position to play, I do think the cornerback, along with the tight end, along with the running backs, along with the linebackers, are some of the worst positions to play in the current day NFL. So let me know all your thoughts down in the comments, bro, and watch the other videos on the channel, dog. Thank y'all for watching. Peace out. Bye bye. Mwah.